One of the issues that I had was to reloading the older cabinets because since the order is all going to be different, was how to go about doing that without making a mess. My first idea was to just start at the top at the first one and look on the inventory list, you know, what goes there, take it, put it in there. That's all nice and dandy until I was getting to these guys where I already had parts in those where there's empty slots. Those had material in them, so I would have to, okay, if I take that out, but then when I pull this guy out to put in the proper thing, what do I do with the guy that I just pull out? Do I just put him on the ground, label him, and keep on going? Or do I go put him wherever? But then I would need a second sheet that would be listed by old locations and where they go. So I could do reverse lookup because this is just A1 and A1 is 3 pages long. So multiply that by 6, I have about 18 pages of inventory. So just to go down, find it in the old location column would be a drag. I would need a duplicate list, but by order of old location. I didn't feel like doing that. So, and you get in serious problems when you get here, something like this. This guy, you have 2 sets of switches. These are not the same as these 2 in the back. This one, the front one, will go in its own drawer, whereas the other 2 are going to share a drawer. They're going to take half and half because the back one, an SMD switch, that's about as good as I can do with my crappy lighting. This SMD switch, I wanted to use it on breadboard, so I soldered pins. I gotta get this orientation figured out. Still new to cameras. So I soldered pins so I can use them in breadboarding for testing. So these guys are gonna stay in one drawer, whereas this guy's gonna go in a second drawer. So when you hit one of those, that's going to get split up. Then you get a snowball effect, and no, that's just a catastrophe waiting to happen. And I've got several others like that. And these are just like this one. These banana, I don't know what you call them, banana post terminals that are for panels. These are going to be split up by color. So I didn't want to risk that or bother with it. Just to show you, get down, all these guys that have A's and B's as a suffix, all those are sharing the same drawer. The front label will have an A suffix, and the inside label, which isn't there yet, will have a B suffix. So I'll be able to identify my parts. It's a compromise because if I would have used one item per drawer, I would have had to buy, I don't know, maybe 2 more cabinets, and my budget's already burnt on those 7 other ones. So I doubled up a lot of things, especially stuff that I rarely use, like banana connectors. How often do you use that? Card edge connectors, crimp connectors, DB25, don't use those a lot. DC connectors, those I'm starting to use those more, but I mean I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 types. I'm only using one of them currently. So a lot of this stuff, they're there for storage, but not for daily use. So I don't mind doubling up stuff. So that was scrapped that idea of moving stuff around. My second idea was Ziploc bags. These things are great. I could have done the same thing as I've done with my lighting sucks. As these stuff, putting things, labeling where they were. In this case, this was something on a shelf somewhere, so I would give them letters, you know, like I have XY, XYZ, RSTU, and this is from the R section series. See, like this is one example. I have two banana plugs coming from two different sources, but they're going to share one cabinet. That's not a big deal because you take two things and you put it in one. It's when it's the other way around, when I take two things from there and then from one cabinet and split them up. I didn't want to face that. So Ziplocs was an idea, but then you would have to start storing it in, you know, like I've done there for those other ones. You have to start. And I've got a lot of stuff. I don't know if I can turn this around just to give you a better idea. Those are all my drawers. I've even got some on my large 3D print all the way in the back, all the way to the wall. I didn't count them, but there's a lot. So I didn't feel like unwrapping, taking stuff out, putting it in Ziplocs, labeling them. I've done that with the other things, so I know it's time consuming. I don't feel like doing that either. Get rid of this. So my other idea was to just take the drawer out and label its old location on it, and that would be it. So I started with these guys, the Post-it stickets, which I don't know if it's because my pack is old, but when you unpeel it, pink. Now I don't know if this is old or if it does this on the new ones. I never noticed, but this is a pain because they started doing it on the drawers. Now that sucks because see, this one has fallen already a couple of times. So, you know, and I had to cut them with the scissors. That's not a big deal, so that they don't cause problems when you put them on the surface. But the big deal was I didn't want to come in the next morning and have half my labels fallen off, and I didn't want to face that. So plan, are we at C or D? Was to use that Teflon tape that I wasn't using. Just cover it up and it will hold it in place. And Teflon tape, green Teflon tape, is easily removable. It just peels right back off, but it stays firmly on. It's kind of like an in-between tape. But it's still got a problem that the paper still curls, and even if it doesn't curl, by having it written on the front here, you have the problem of visibility. Looking down, trying to find the proper drawer in all of that area would be, I don't want to say impossible, but a burden. So plan C was to use that Teflon tape just up on top. And it's very visible. You can see it from above. I mean, everything is clearly visible, and it also permits me to store them butt to butt. So I say space, because if I would be using front labels, I would have to leave a gap so that I would see under. Now this gap, when it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I've got 10 columns. That gap would put me into the wall, and what I'm using here is I'm at capacity. I have room for maybe one more here, and I'm up against the wall, and here I have half along the edge, I have a half a drawer of width. So I'm at capacity and I can't move my large 3D printer. One, it's heavy. Two, it's practically bolted there, so and it's on fixtures so it doesn't vibrate, and I never want to move that again unless I really have to. So that was my solution to that. Now, since I had a lot of these labels to make on Teflon tape, I recycled, put this aside, I recycled this guy. The table that I used to cut my Mylar bags, I recycled it into tape holder cutter. So I just made myself a little, let's call it adjustment, just pieces of wood with the 2-inch tape that lines up with the Teflon tape, so that when I roll out the Teflon tape and I hold the end, let's pull this out, can that be seen? Like this, like this. I know what, let's switch camera, that'll be even better. Like that. So I would take the Teflon tape, oops, that's too much, line it up with the end of the 2-inch tape, and I would cut a little bit before the end of the 2-inch tape, just like that. Now what's nice about the Teflon tape is that it doesn't stick right away to the roll. It leaves, it just hangs off a little bit, so it's really easy to pick back up again. And then, because these are 2-inch drawers, so all you do is line it up with one end, and that's it, it's done. It doesn't have to be precise because these are coming off anyways. So then you just take your marker. I don't recommend a fine point unless you've got bionic vision. I don't. I use, well, I don't know what you would call this, a medium V-tip, and then I would just write on it, you know, A1, Z1, the cabinet, and the coordinates, the row column. So that's how I would go about it. I would just grab, let's switch back. So I would just pull out a drawer, note its location, you know. Actually, I would pull them out one row at a time, put them down, and cut off 6 pieces one at a time, put them on, and then label them sequentially across the row. That way it was a little bit more, let's say, automated. You just had to be careful when you get to partial rolls like this one. This row, it's 3 and 4 that has to be labeled. Now I would just take out 3 and 4, but then you got to remember to look here to see where they were, and not automatically, you know, because once you start going, by the time you get to the end, your brain is running on autopilot. So you have to check back, say, okay, it starts at 3, then 4, and this one was 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is just 2, you know. So and once I'm going to be finished, it just comes right off, and I can fix the new labels. Actually, that's another process I'm trying to figure out, how I'm going to go about putting the labels. If I do one cabinet at a time, or if I just do all of them and get it over with, that's to be determined. Let's cut that up. So something had to go wrong. I had no audio. I must have muted my mic by accident. And I only noticed today when I was just gonna paste everything together and upload it. So I had to review my videos and figure out what I'm talking about by looking at my hands, because I can't read lips. And this tape that I'm using in the front, the blue tape, and I've also got green tape. You can't see it as well, but I've got green tape around the perimeter on the edges. That's to hold the whole assembly together when you, especially the blue ones, because the greens, the new ones were bolted, so these guys weren't moving. But the old ones, they're loose. They were just piled up one on top of another. And when when you pull too hard or push too hard on one of the drawers, you would move that cabinet. And it got hazardous, so what I did is I put the blue tape at the intersections in the center. I couldn't put anything below because I didn't want to get into that. And I just put green tape along the sides at the joints and at the top across the joints. I just used painter's tape. You could see a little bit of painter's tape. And that blue duct tape that I got, it worked really well, because now when you're pulling or pushing against one drawer, one cabinet, you're pushing against the entire array of 6. So it made working a lot safer, because those things were wobbly. So one issue that came up was how to limit waste of label sheets, because you only got so much in a pack, and I assume Avery labels are always available, but you never know if a particular dimension. This is 1x2. I don't expect it to go extinct, but at least I hope not. So one thing I do is when you use your last page, you peel off those top labels carefully. Don't kink the paper too much, strict minimum, and then you can reuse it. As your first page for the next cabinet. You just have to count how many used labels. In this case, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I write the numbers down, so really quickly at a glance, I know how many have been used. And then when I print my next batch, I just ensure to have 8 blank entries at the top of my database. That way it'll just skip over those entries, start on the proper label, and keep on going from there, as if it doesn't care that it is not printing an entry. As long as your line has no data on it, it'll just skip over it and go to the next one. You'll, like in this case, I've used 17, so I'll still use it. I've had one, I think I picked it up at the bottom too. Just be very careful, because if you kink them too badly, and let's say one of the labels rolls up and gets caught in the printer, and especially on page 1, and then you got 2, 3, 4, 5 pages coming in after it of label paper. And mine come out face down. So I'll try to do something else while I'm printing, so I won't notice that, oops, I messed up. So that's one way to limit cost. Another issue that came up was the sturdiness. I don't know if I mentioned it in an earlier video. I don't remember. But the old ones are thinner by about, I don't know, there may be 60-70% the thickness of the newer ones, and they're not the same material. This one is stiffer, so there won't be a lot of give. It'll twist, but it'll break. This one's softer. I dare go that far, and eventually I'll break one, but these, I've dropped some and broken corners, chipped fronts. They are more fragile. And the nice thing that personally I like is the newer ones are taller. They're a little bit shorter by about, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or so. It's not the end of the world. I prefer to have the extra height for those, let's say, extra tall components, or even if you lie them down, sometimes they're bulky, or sometimes they'll have a wire attached to them, and extra space is nice to have. The other thing about being tall is the label visibility. As soon as you start bending down, now we see, I'll try not to shake, now we can see, I'll line them up the same way. Now we can see the top label, but as soon as you're going downwards, you're quickly not seeing. See this one, you're still seeing the part number on the tall one, because these are nice. I'm sitting and they're on the wall, so I can easily see them with my glasses, but they won't be over a desk. They'll where I'm moving to the next locale, they'll most likely be along a wall. So, I mean, I'm 6 feet, and that space is 6 feet 6. So there's, I can't jack them up 2 feet above me, you know. So I'll always be leaning down to see. Now, okay, I'll be able to read maybe the top half, but all the other ones below, I won't be able to see them. So one idea I just thought of is to get a label in a stripe format and take the part number, in this case it's a diode, and write it across the top. So, and in larger numbers, you know, to make it fit. Whereas this one, I was limited by height. So that might be an option, to have a label printed along. And I don't know if I can find a format that is 1/4. Yeah, that's about the 1/4 inch. 3/8 you start reaching at the edges, or in metric it's, see, 1 centimeter is really running close to the curves. So it'd be like a 1/4 inch. 5/16 would be nice. I don't even know if that exists. I assume so somewhere, unless you get into taking these 1x2s and cutting them with an X-Acto. I don't have a cutting table, so we'll see about that. The separators, the stock separator is thicker, it's solid, but if you're going to put a label on it, be careful. Don't put it on the front side, because the word top is engraved, you know, it's bumpy, and you've got those injection sites, the injection ports for the plastic. You've got 4 holes there, four bumps along the corners, and I mean your label's gonna lift. You're not gonna enjoy it. So just remember, put it backwards, and that way you'll get a nice flat surface. But be mindful. They have, I think the paper will fit. I can put my nail there. I could probably take a piece of paper and maybe even fold it in half. Yeah, see, paper folded in half fits. But while I was doing my labels on my separators, sometimes the paper would stick out. It was no big deal. I would just fold it in or whatever. It didn't matter, because mine are 1 millimeter thick. These are 1.5 or whatever. Just show you the difference. Oh well, okay, maybe not that one. Maybe I've played too much with it. Fine, prove me wrong. There, see, that's with a stock label. In this one, it's stiff. Mine, there's just no way. I mean, you hear it go clink. It just slides right out. So it gives me more leverage when my label is not perfectly centered, because these are they exactly 2 inches? Yep, well, 2 inches minus not even 1/16, maybe minus 1/32. And these guys, these guys are 2 inches and a bit, 1/32, 1/64, but they go over, they go beyond the 2 inch, whereas mine go just inside of the 2. So that gives me that little margin for error. Just something to think about when you're using the stock labels and you're putting, I mean, if you're using the stock separators and putting the labels on them. Good luck. I had one problem with sometimes I wanted to keep the original bag for SMD parts. I have some that are a quarter of this size, so they were really light, and I didn't want them sliding under the separator and getting mixed up with the other set. These ones wouldn't be a problem, but I didn't want to take a chance, because these guys, I could probably identify them with these guys, but the other ones, I can't see what's on them. Even with this, I probably need more the magnifying glass, but microscope. I've seen microscopes, lens, but I mean they're short. They're like $5 or something. So, but they magnify a lot more than this, and they have a light built in. I can't find mine. It's lost to the ages. So I wanted to keep them in their original wrappers, but these wrappers have the label, and the label, boink, I mean, it's automatic. You even if I put anti-static or ESD foam, whatever you want to call it, if I put it on, I'll put it at the end, it doesn't hold. The bag has too much stiffness because of the paper, and it is a thick-ish plastic. I mean, it's sturdy. It was the same thing when you get them in bags like this. This would be worse because then it wouldn't fit in a half. So these would be awkward as well. And it was worse when the bag had the paper would fold around. When it folds around the plastic bag like this, it adds strength. Like, it doesn't want to at all. So I think I mentioned those Amazon bags. They fit just nicely widthwise. And I put my S&D on them, and just the weight of the zip, just the weight of the zip of the bag is enough to hold it down. I put the ESD foam on top, just as extra protection when you're pulling it out, yanking or tripping, whatever, just in case I add a little bit of weight on it. Doesn't hurt, and I had them lying around. So that's one nice thing about these. And, I mean, I've barely, I don't know, I've taken not even a 1/4 inch of bags from my first bag. I think I've got like 3 or 4 of these sets of bags. So plentiful. It was either Amazon or AliExpress. But if you want the dimensions, these are, let's use a small one. 2 3/8. Total length 3.5, and in metric it's 6 centimeters by total length 9, 6 by 9 centimeters. I included the zip, not holding capacity. Holding capacity is, let's say, 7 and 8 is on the zip line. So 7 is probably as high as you could fit, and even then it better be something very thin. But these things are great. Fine, don't stop. This is for the new guy that has never done mechanical and is making his first 3D printer or a mini CNC machine, and you start ordering mechanical parts, bearings, rods. Some will arrive sealed, like these mini bearings I use for pivot points. They're very small. I mean, these are the dimensions here. there. I have problems with the orientation. There. 6 outer diameter, 3 inner diameter, and 2.5 width. And I think I've got one that's smaller than that too. So in this case, I was able to keep it in its original bag because it doesn't have a red stripe. And I didn't double it up because I know I'm going to be getting more like this. These guys are to slide. They're linear bearings. Though the other ones were rotational bearings. These are linear. They're made to slide on a shaft up and down, whereas the other one is made to have stuff rotate around it, you know, a pivot point. Whereas this one is meant to roll linear. They come in these little plastic casings. I won't open this one for nothing, but I could see that it's got some slight moisture, grease, oil, a little oil film on it. I don't mess with them. I only open them when I need them. And even that, I've got a little bottle of, little plastic bottle of oil. Get them at your local hardware store for basic lubricant, sewing machine oil, stuff like that. It doesn't have to be NASA specific oil. You know, sewing machine oil is thin and it'll fit in. It'll slide into these small moving parts. Now, if it's a high-speed bearing that'll be moving at a crazy rate, then I'm hoping you're using somebody's design and use whatever they recommend for lubricant, or go to the manufacturer of the bearing and see what they tell you to use. And the other one of these guys, these are linear bearings but much longer. They're in a sealed bag. I leave them sealed. I see drops, oil. I don't mess with them, and when I do have to mess with them, Amazon bag to the rescue. And when, after you take the other one out, put this one back in, roll it up, zip it up so that you get as much air out. Less air, less moisture, hopefully. Don't do this on a rainy day. So keep those parts. If it arrives wet, keep it wet. If it arrives dry, you can, I mean, nothing prevents you from lubricating these guys, but they have a seal. You're not going to lubricate much except get your fingers dirty and your assembly. These guys, it's not really the top. It's not the exterior that should be oiled. I mean, these are oiled just so they don't rust, but the movement is not on the outside. The outside is sandwiched in a block, and it slides along that block. I forget what to call it, bearing block, but this part is retained. It's the rod that goes in that does the motion. So it's the inside that can use lubricant. The outside is just oiled so it doesn't rust, for surface rust only. So that's it for that. The last subject I wanted to cover was the process, how I went about stocking the parts in each cabinet. Now, the C series, my newer ones, were a charm. I would print an inventory sheet, where it's going, where it came from, new location, old location, and the type, the part, the package, quantity, and I would work with this, taking my stuff wherever, whether they were in another cabinet or if they were in one of my boxes of miscellaneous. This C series was a charm. I mean, all I've got is quantity corrections, 2 editions. Quantity corrections, 1 edition. Quantities, a correction here, 2 editions. They're all like that. Practically all quantity corrections, 3 editions. Rarely stuff on the next page. Quantities, 1 quantity. 2 quantities. C7. I merged this one with this one because I was able to fit them. I thought I couldn't, but I did. And 1 quantity there. Yeah, same thing. I fit them both in the same slot. Like I said, C6, the C series were a breeze. Whenever I've had something that I would double up, well, I can't double up, but I mean, I joined it with the next one, I just left it empty. I didn't bother with renumbering stuff. See, these guys, these 2 extras, those are corrections. 1 extra, 2 extra, 2 extra. That's it. I mean, this was a snap. And then I did the A series. This is A1. It went well until here when I started getting into those alligator clips. And then I decided, oh, I'm going to double them up because it's going to be too much waste. And then I thought, oh, I'll just leave the rest of the row empty like the other ones there. But then page 2 came along, and all these are doubling up. Minor corrections, but it's always doubling up. I had misjudged the size of the physical parts, doubling up all the way to the bottom. So that one I ended up A1. I mean, that's the first cabinet. I reshoved everything up to here, up to the 3rd row, and that left me so much space that I started taking stuff from the 2nd cabinet and moved it into here. So manual intervention, human error, you know. So you want to keep that to a minimum. So A2, I remember specifically saying, well, this time I'm going to print the worksheet, fill up the drawers, and as I'm filling them up, make my corrections, then go on the PC, correct the database, then print the labels, and just apply the labels as they are, because it'll all have been done by this. I'm brain dead. I forgot. I doubled up here, and I thought, oh, okay, it's not so bad. So there's all these, but then I was intentionally doubling up some connectors like RG11s and stuff. I mean, these are tiny things. So these were already doubled up, but then I got to the C's here, and by the time I got to the G's, I got more there, and the last page is nothing but doubling up. So I reshoved everything from, well, the 3rd entry is a double up. So I renumbered everything from there, reprinted my labels. And I had some on, and then I'd already started. So I figured C4, C3, printed my worksheet first. C4, printed my worksheet. I mean, at A3, A4, I did my worksheet. Everything went well. And A5, brain fart again. And the first entry got doubled up. And the rest of the page all got doubled up all the way to the bottom, except for I think there's 5 on this page that did not get doubled up, and some stuff got moved around. This one got put on the front page because I realized, hey, that's a PS22E switch. I recognize that. I've got more of those. So that one came up to here and it became a C because that's where the PS22s are. So this was a complete remanipulating in the database. Printed the labels again, and except this one, I took another technique. This is A5, okay? So let's see if I can do. A5 is the one in the middle on the bottom. I thought, hey, the top row, seal and solenoids, that would be row A. So I've got 2 vacancies at the end because I know I'm going to be playing with those again. B, springs. I know I'll be playing with those, so I left the last one empty. But the switches, I started off at C1, and kept on going all the way down till I ran out of switches. Because I mean, I'm making right now my main project is making the console for Flight Sim. So switches, buttons, rockers, you want them. There's a lot of models, and so I've got 2 full rows plus 4 more. So that's 6, 6, 12. 16. I've got 16 empty slots for switches. Terminal blocks. I might need 1 or 2 more. I still have 1 drawer available, and I still have the bottom row in case. So, and then A6 was a charm. I mean, you can see I've got 2 empties on that row and only 2 on the bottom, and I didn't bother trying to jam in the 4 last ones. The bottom ones, those 2 bottom ones, 2 very last ones, those are my separators, so I just keep them in there. I have the stock ones. I have cardboard ones that I made years ago, until I got fed up of cardboard. And then there's my first batch are too short. Need contrast. They're too short, they're not tall enough. So I made a second batch, put it behind it. Those are practically as tall. Let's line them up. Yeah. Okay, sure, fine, move. It was 1/16. Yeah, it's barely 1/16. barely 1/16 of the difference with the stock ones. Well, that was good enough for me. The label fit easily on my larger model, and I made a lot of those. The small ones, I keep them because sometimes there were cases where I just wanted to have a separator. It was all the same thing, but I just wanted to have the separator stop stuff from moving around too much. And the cardboard, well, I'm keeping those just in case. Hoarder one day, hoarder forever. So that was it. That was my experience, and I wish you more luck with yours. Have a good one.